Now we can move on to our truck inventory section. So I'll create a comment that says truck inventory. We want to start off with an H2 element with a class of inventory dash header and an ID of inventory. We want to make sure we include our text truck inventory. Create a div with a class of trucks dash grid. Inside of this, we'll create a div with the class truck. Inside of this, we'll create an image element, and we want to link to an image of our first truck, followed by the alternative text of truck 1. Create another div, and inside of this, we'll create an H2 element and say truck 1. Create a paragraph element that says price, and we'll just enter $1 for now, followed by another paragraph tag, and this is going to be followed by another paragraph tag that says mileage, and we'll just say 1 for now. And then we also want to include miles at the end. Then we also want to create an anchor element that navigates to our contact.php and include a button with the text learn more here. Now if we refresh, you guys are going to see that the first item in our grid is successfully displaying here, along with our image, the name, the price, the mileage, and the learn more button. But since we're using PHP, we can do this a lot more effectively. So what we're going to do is navigate to our include folder, create a new file called trucks.inc.php, and inside of this we're going to specify that this is going to be PHP, and since we're only including PHP on this page, we don't need the closing section of this. Now we'll create a variable called truck inventory, and what we're going to do is make this equal to an array that stores all of our product information. So to create an array in PHP, you simply type array followed by parentheses, and then we also want to include our semicolon at the end. And this is going to be a multi-dimensional array, meaning we're going to create another array here, and this array is going to store all the information for our first truck. For every value, I'm going to make it a string for now, and this first value here is going to be the ID of that specific truck or product, possibly in your instance. And then we need to separate each one of these values with a comma. And our second value is going to be the name of the first truck, followed by the price, followed by the mileage, and lastly, we want to include our image here as well. So we'll go into our folder and get the first image. And then to separate each one of our arrays here, we also want to include a comma at the end. And now that you guys understand what's going on here, I'll include the rest of the items. So now you guys can see that we have 4 different items within our array here. And what I want to point out is at the end of our last item here is you don't want to include a comma, but between each one here we want to make sure we include those commas. Now we can navigate to our index.php file, and within our trucks grid what we want to do is give ourselves some space here, and what we need to do is say that we're going to be using PHP code here, so we'll declare that here. And the first thing we need to do is include that array that we just created. So we need to go into our include folder and get our trucks.include.php. Make sure you include your semicolon. And now we want to use our PHP for each loop. And what we need to do is say what we want to loop through here. And that's going to be our truck inventory array. And then we need to say as, and then this can be named anything that you guys want, but in our case we're going to call it truck. So this is going to represent our entire array, and this is going to represent each item that we're looping through in our array. After that, we want to create our curly braces, and what we need to do is make sure that we echo out this information, and we'll include our quotation marks here. And keep in mind that when you're using quotation marks, you cannot use double quotation marks inside of double quotation marks. So what I mean by that is I cannot come in here and create, for example, an H2 element and then create a class in here and use double quotation marks, or it's going to cause an issue, as you guys can see here. If I'm using double quotation marks here, I have to make these single quotation marks or it will not work successfully. So you guys are going to notice that I made that change down below here. I have all single quotation marks now. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this H2 element, cut this using Control X, and I'm simply going to paste it within this echo statement here like so. And then at the end, you want to make sure you include your semicolon like so. And I'm going to go ahead and indent this one level just like that. And now in this first div, what I need to do is create a custom ID for each element from our array. So I'll say data-id equals, and we want to include our single quotation marks. And then inside of that, include our curly braces. And we want to reference our truck variable here. And again, this is representing each item within our array. And we want to use the first value in each of our arrays here. So basically, this is going to get the first value from each one of our arrays. So we'll get 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively from each one of our arrays within our truck inventory. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this, and I want to dynamically get each one of our image elements. So here, instead of getting directly our image, what we want to do is get each one, and we just need to specify what value from our array we want to get. And in this case, we want to get the last one, which is going to be 4. And then we also want to get the alternative text, which is going to be the same as the description. And this is going to be 1. And then we also want to make sure that we have our loading attribute equal to lazy for each one of these images. Now, instead of truck 1, we'll get rid of that. Change this to 1 for the title of each item. Change our price here from $1. This is going to be 2. Then we also want to include our $sign here like so. And you guys are going to notice that causes an issue. To get rid of that, we want to include a slash just like so. And then we also want to change our mileage based on our array. And here we're going to put 3. And keep in mind what's going on here, if you guys are confused, is that arrays are 0 indexed. So to get the first value from our array, we want to use 0 and then so on. We continue counting down the list. Now, if we go ahead and refresh our page, you're going to see that all of our items are dynamically rendered onto our page because we're pulling all of the information from our array using this built-in for each loop in PHP. Tap here to see what happens next.